Welcome everybody to our latest focus on the SoG genealogical treasures and collections with our very own genealogist Elsa Churchill. And today's focus, I think, is on wills. Is that right, Elsa?
It is indeed, yes. That's what I'll be talking about. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. This is one of a series of focus on the SoG treasures talk. However, it will be a bit of a challenge. I know it's always a challenge for me to keep my talks to half an hour, but for anyone looking for wills or wanting to understand wills, I would really suggest that the Society of Genealogists Library provides a remarkable resource. And while our resources are concentrated on, but by no means exclusive to England and Wales, we do have material for Scotland, Ireland, and also the former colonies as places where the British migrated to. And the probate material at the Society is vast. In fact, there are thousands of items listed on the catalogue. And so I will have quite a structured idea of what it is I'm going to be talking about as this sort of first feel for how the Society's library can be helpful to you. As I say, I will give you a copy of all the slides. I know I do talk quickly, so if you do miss anything, don't worry, you'll get a copy of the slides so you can go back and review them. And this will feed into what we're calling a collection guide for the library pages of the website. So watch those pages as you'll learn more confidently to use our probate sources. And I have to say that I will very much plug the intense probate course that we're going to be running later this year over 6 weeks or so, where you'll be able to learn lots more about probate in depth. And I'll give you a bit of information about that at the end of my presentation. For the Society of Genealogists, you'd expect us to have everything you need to take your first steps in using and understanding probate records. We most definitely have relevant textbooks and guides. We also have what we call indexes and finding aids to help you identify what records there are and where you might find them, both online and in archives. We unusually at the Society of Genealogists have access to copies and surrogate copies in film and digital form of the records themselves, something we have acquired over the years and by being an affiliate library working in partnership with FamilySearch. We also have a huge number of transcriptions of documents and abstracts of the documents, and I'll explain what they are, and a huge amount of unique items. So I'm going to be giving you sort of themes and how you might look for items, and I'm going to be using sort of England and Wales primarily as my examples of searching and looking at material. But as I say, we have all sorts of sources for essentially the United Kingdom and around the world. This is where the Society of Genealogists and its catalogue really does come into its own for you to start looking. We've always collected all the indexes and finding aids to establish if a will exists, and often copies of the documents themselves. So as a general overview, the kind of material we have particularly for England and Wales, material before and after the important dates of 1858, when the processing of probate material changes from the ecclesiastical courts to the civil courts. So we have, for example, indexes to the 1858 onwards wills in the Society, acquired before the indexes went online. We have all of the pre-1858 finding aids that you will need to establish if a will exists for England and Wales, for example, British Records Society index volumes and others, and I'll explain a little bit more about those. We have older manuscript calendars or lists of wills that have been acquired and been used over the years, and these can sometimes feed into, finding documents if as indexes change and evolve. We have access to the National Archive documents on from PCC, for example, and of course by having access to the major genealogy websites, Find My Past, Ancestry, the Genealogist, etc. There is a lot of probate material on there which you can be accessed in the library. We particularly, as I say, collect abstracts and transcriptions of documents in printed form in the library and in original documents, and in some cases we are the holder of some original documents, such as the abstracts of wills compiled by the Bank of England, and I'll talk about those. We have some unique items, particularly relating to documents which were destroyed through the Troubles in Ireland in 1922, or the destruction of documents for Devon and Somerset through the raids in Exeter in 1942. So some material which had been collected before those years is very important. We have some remarkable material within our manuscript collections of documents and special collections. And by being an affiliate library, we have copies of the England and Wales documents from 1858 to 1925, and all of the pre-1858 church court wills and documents as well, again, by being an affiliate library. That's just a quick summary. So if you keep this as a aide-memoire of what we've got, it'll sort of remind you of what there is in the Society's library, just for England and Wales. In fact, the précis we made, the little booklet of indicating what will indexes and other probate material what we had in the library, which we did in 1996, went on to over 160 pages, and the catalogue as our major catalogue lists thousands of other items. So it is an absolutely vast collection and a delight if you have any interest in probate, whether as a starter or a more advanced researcher. And I'm sure you know why you should use wills, for the information that can be found on them, not only the names and addresses and occupations of the testator, the date the will was made and signed, indication of their health, when the will was made, and often details of the family who might be beneficiaries of bequests. The testator might name married daughters, wives of sons, grandchildren, in-laws. Some people may be in the will, some may be out of the will. Elder children may have already been provided for, so might not be named. You hopefully find details of any property they leased or owned. And then when the will goes through the probate process, you may have an indication of when the testator died and when the testator was actually, testator's will was actually put for probate. And then not only would you might find information for the wills or administrations of those who died without a will, or whose wills could not be proved or wasn't quite valid, but you might want to look for extra documents such as accounts, inventories, or evidence of a dispute, or the will being used for some kind of other legal evidence. So they are remarkable documents for the point of view of a family historian, but they're not all online in one place. But one place that you can start for your research is the Society of Genealogists Library. So the general sort of wills section, the textbooks, the guides, we have brought into the library, and this is actually on the open shelves at the Society of Genealogists. Textbooks such as the Stuart Raymond's Wills of Our Ancestors, one of the most recent guides, Words from Wills, Understanding Where to Look for Wills, the Gibson Guides, Probate Jurisdiction, Where to Look for Wills by Jeremy Gibson and Stuart Raymond, the Phillimore Atlas and Index of British Parish Registers, which will help you identify church courts, all the general sort of textbooks you'd expect us to have, and many more are listed in the catalogue by title, and obviously you can do a subject search for sort of wills general and look for record guides, more modern ones, and of course, I would argue some of the older publications still have their merits. There isn't anything better, in my mind, that's been written on probate than was written by David Gardner and Frank Smith in 1959 in the second chapter, in the second volume of their work, Genealogical Research in England and Wales, Volume 2. I still refer to that when I am teaching and when I'm preparing for my more advanced course, or Anthony Camp's wills and their whereabouts, and there isn't anyone who knows more about probate than Anthony Camp. So some of the older guides, I still find myself having to look back at it, as well as just the more general popular press stuff. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with searching for wills after 1858 using the government search option for probate documents for England and Wales, the website. But you might also know that that isn't the easiest index to use online for wills, even though it's a way of ordering a copies at a negligible price of £1.50. But we've, of course, having access to the major genealogy websites, the post-1858 indexes, such as those on Find My Past, Ancestry, and the genealogists, can perhaps help you identify a will when you're going to order the document from the government. I should also say, if you did want to save yourself £1.50, we're not going to lose our access to having the copies of the post-1858 wills that FamilySearch had made up to 1925, which can be viewed at the Society through an affiliate library. Now that's we're an affiliate library. Now that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about in post-1858 wills, unless they end up as copies and transcripts within family collections, papers, and other resources at the SoG. I'm really going to concentrate on the pre-1858 church court documents for England and Wales as sort of examples of how you can look and what we have. Prior to 1858, English probate administration and records came under the jurisdictions of many local ecclesiastical courts of the Church of England, and a genealogist really does need to know what's in them, where are they, and how can I find them, both online and in record offices. So you need to understand the use and content of probate records, to understand the hierarchy of the church courts, to look for probate records online. Some are online, but quite often not all the potential documents that are there online. And is there more in archives that might supplement or help you when you found a will online, for example? And not only should you start looking for wills and administrations, but you might want to find ancillary documents such as inventories, etc. And for all of that, the collections at the Society of Genealogists, as I said, can be incredibly helpful. But I'm going to go through a little bit of terminology, because understanding that will help you find things using the catalogues. So it is necessary to have a little bit of understanding of the hierarchy of the various church courts in which a will might have been proved or an administration granted. As I say, ecclesiastical courts came under the control of church officials, and this map illustrates the various dioceses in England and Wales. Some dioceses might cover several counties, such as the Diocese of Lichfield here in the Midlands, Diocese of Lichfield and Coventry, which included the counties of Derbyshire, Shropshire and Staffordshire and parts of Warwickshire. The county of Kent down here, for example, is divided into the Diocese of Rochester in West Kent and the Diocese of Canterbury in East Kent. The Diocese of Exeter covered Devon and Cornwall, for example, or the Diocese of Norwich covered Norfolk and Suffolk. So again, that's the sort of structure really of understanding the Church of England. Several church courts actually sat in London at Doctors' Commons, and it's another phrase that comes up quite a lot. That was near St Paul's Cathedral in the City of London. But often the consistory courts of the diocese of the bishops sat in the at the seat of the bishop, often in the cathedral, such as the consistory court of Chester, which met in a room still survives in the southwest corner of the cathedral, which was presided over by something called a chancellor. And now the church courts deal really only with the matters of sort of dealing with the physical aspects of the church and its buildings, or the discipline of its clergy. The church courts having lost their testamentary duties after 1858. But the church courts would mean understanding that hierarchy. You'd understand the names of the courts within that hierarchy. The archbishop or his chancellor or registrar presided over what was called the prerogative court. The north of England, Northumberland, Westmoreland, Cheshire, Cumberland, Durham, Yorkshire, Lancashire and Nottingham fell within the province of York, and hence the prerogative court of York. The remainder of the south of England fell within the province of Canterbury, and hence the prerogative court of Canterbury. These are the sort of the senior church courts that dealt with probate matters. Below them sat a bishop, who presided over his diocese. As I said, the diocese could cover several counties, such as Lichfield, or just part of a county. And the bishop's courts were known as a consistory court, or in some cases, a commissary. And below them, the archdeacon presided over part of a diocese known as an archdeaconry. And again, the archdeaconry may form part of a county, or might have the whole county, or might cross a county boundary. But you will be looking for archdeaconry courts. And these are really the workhorse of most of the probate matters. But all of these courts dealt with probate matters. And then for various historical reasons, particularly after the dissolution of the monasteries and the sale of their ecclesiastical rights, certain parishes or groups of parishes were independent of the formal control of a local church courts, and these became known as liberties. And their probate activities were often governed by a different official from those outlined above. Perhaps that you might be a rector of another parish, or the dean and chapter of a local cathedral, the bishop or archdeacon of another diocese or archdeaconry, or even the local lord of the manor might have inherited some probate rights after he bought up the land of the monastery. And even the universities dealt with probate matters, the universities of Oxford and Cambridge. But again, so you're looking for the courts, the prerogative courts, the consistory and commissary courts, the archdeaconry courts, and various peculiars. And while there are specific rules which say where a will might be proved, depending on its value and proximity, generally you'd start with the local court and work your way up from the archdeacon to the bishop and the archbishop's courts. But in practice, because some wills are easier to find, you might start higher and work down. So the basic Gibson guides arrange county by county, which indicates which church courts operated within the county, giving you the earliest dates of wills and where the original records lie and what indexes and finding aids there are to locate a particular will, and often give you an indication of whether these wills have gone online. Is, this is one of the books you really do need to have the latest edition to hand. And of course, the Philmore Atlas and Index of Parish Registers, showing very useful maps showing the colour and boundaries of the church courts, so you can see, London has an abundance of church courts, and whether you're dealing with, in the City of London, the Archdeaconry Court of London or the commissary, and where the documents are. And again, you might need for London, you might need to also consult the maps for the adjoining counties, which we now recognise as Greater London, to find out where these documents have ended up. So to find out what we have for those church court records and what there are for the places where your ancestors lived, there's lots of searches you can do in the catalogue. You can search by place or parish, because we've often got a lot of listings, or people might have abstracted all the wills relating to a particular parish. That's something I've noticed quite a bit when I've been looking through the catalogues. You can certainly search to see what we have. If you know and have established what the ecclesiastical probate court was called, you can search by that court in the catalogues. You can say, well, what have you got that covers the county where my ancestors were living and might have had wills, because so often a church court will cover at least a county, if not more than a county. So with a cross-reference by that, and you can do some sort of subject searches under wills as well. So I'll give you some screenshots that you can take away to know that you can use the basic sort of browse search that defaults and will answer 9 questions out of 10 if you're looking for probate material at the society. But you can do more advanced searches as well. So you could put in the place or the name of the church court there and see what we have. So, for example, I've just put, what have you, let's look at the various Canterbury. There's Canterbury Archdeaconry or the Canterbury Commissary, and you can see, what indexes and finding aids that we might have within the library to tell you, does the library exist? If you're searching under wills, you can sort of, again, we've got sort of all the various ecclesiastical courts for and not only the English ones, but these commissariats for Scotland, for example, peculiars, they will all be noted in the catalogue of things that you can search for. Again, and not only for England and Wales, but we'll have a section on what wills have we got for Australia, or what wills have we got for Gibraltar, for example. Those are the things you can search for. and manorial courts, which had jurisdiction. Again, these are things that we might well have some guide or abstract in the library. So I'll give you some ideas of some searches that you can do. So as an example, if I just wanted to look at, what have we got, what will material have we got relating to Berkshire? I could do a search listing all the 68 items for Berkshire, the whole of the county, the general items, and specifically looking at wills, which have some indication for most of the county. We'll of course have the guides to the various courts that cover the county, microfilm copies of the older manuscript calendars, which might have been superseded by printed indexes and finding aids published by the British Record Society or local record societies or local family history societies, indexes not only to the main courts, but the local peculiar courts. Someone may have done abstracts of all the probate inventories, and we've got those as well. And as I said, there are quite often lots of specific place listing and abstracts of wills. In this case, for several parishes within Berkshire, someone's abstracted all the wills for people living in Bucklebury, Farringdon, Hungerford, etc. And a remarkable collection, a manuscript collection that we have is it's what's known as the Snell collection, who made 15 volumes of abstracts of wills from the Prerogative Court of Canterbury and local courts that covered Berkshire, largely before about 1750. 15 volumes of the abstracts and a 25 volume of all the names and places mentioned in those abstracts, and not just the testator, but the people mentioned in the document itself. And most of the original documents are at Berkshire Record Office now, but some are also at Wiltshire and Oxfordshire history centres, and there are also a few at Windsor Castle. So you might need to check the FamilySearch catalogue to see if any of those might have been filmed and digitised and viewed at the SoG, and I'll show you how to do that as well. Sometimes when you're looking at the catalogue and you look up an archdeaconry and it tells you what indexes and finding aids, they'll often mention that we have the index published by the British Record Society. Some volumes, but not all of the British Record Society volumes, are digitised within Find My Past and Ancestry. We have all that have been published, and we have brought them into Wharf Road on the open shelves, the British Record Society shelves, on the rolling stack shelves for you to access yourself at the Society. So, for example, I've used the published British Record Society index to Essex wills held at the Essex Record Office in Chelmsford. This shows in the index that there is an entry relating to a will for Arthur Clarence, surgeon of Thaxted, in 1831, and that reference number in the index would be what I would need to order a copy from the Essex Record Office, because these records are not yet online. However, FamilySearch has generally filmed and digitised all the records from local record offices, and having identified from the introduction to the Wills at Chelmsford Index that these relate to wills in the church court that was called the Commissary Court of the Diocese of London, the Essex and Hertfordshire Division. It's a bit of a mouthful. But they have been digitised. They're available to view at the Society of Genealogists, and I can identify the set that covers 1831, which is that one. And by using these volume and folio numbers, I can identify and download and read the document for Arthur Clarence from the Society of Genealogists. So I don't have to go to Essex, and I can get that free of charge at the SoG. So I've worked my way through the digital images in that particular set of wills from 1827 to 1833, and having found folio 413, I've downloaded it, and there's the will of Arthur Clarence of Thaxted. The will is indexed on Ancestry, but as I said, there aren't any images online, so you may have to obtain it for a small sum by registering with the Essex Record Office as an alternative way of getting it, or come to the Society. And quite often people ask us to do searches in the digitised images of the wills that we have access to via FamilySearch. So we are happy to do that for you for a small fee from the search copy service. Published indexes, of course, include all of the commissariat indexes, the commissariat court indexes up to 1800, published by the Scottish Record Society, and then for the later years we have film indexes, and the testamentary records of Scotland are also digitised and filmed by FamilySearch and accessible at the Society, or you can use Scotland's People. In addition to the indexes and finding aids, we also have various collections and copies of abstracts of wills made from various Irish church courts or produced as evidence in secular courts. So although the original documents may have been destroyed in 1922, we have, for example, William Beetham's abstracts of wills from the Prerogative Court of Armagh, the Whelpley collection of Irish wills and pleading, Lorna Rossbottom's collection of abstracts of 4,000 wills, and various indexes to wills in the Registry of Deeds, just as an example of some of the amazing collections of wills, or identifying a will, or even having a copy of the will, even though the original documents in Ireland were destroyed. So let's have a talk about copies, transcripts, abstracts, or just listings of wills in our archive collections. Wills can often be very difficult to read. You may have to understand, even take a paleography course to learn to identify certain forms of handwriting and to recognise common forms of letters, words, and phrases. A will before 1858 will invariably begin with the phrase "In the name of God, Amen," such as this will here for Thomas Arrowsmith. And here I've made an abstract of the will of Thomas Arrowsmith, noting the people mentioned in it and what they received when the will was probated and when the testator died. So this is what I mean by an abstract. We may not have a document itself, but someone may have seen the document and have abstracted the important genealogical information from it. Now you'll find the many copies and abstracts of wills either in book form, and they'll be listed in the library catalogue, or they may be within the document collection of research notes or the special collections at the Society. So using the shortcuts from the library pages to the Society of Genealogists library catalogue, the online resources, or our archives and finding aids will lead you to the a tremendous amount of material at the Society. I'm sorry there's no one catalogue that lists them all. We're working on it, but using these shortcuts will definitely lead you to all sorts of discoveries. The online material, not only can you search the library catalogue, but you can search the digital collections, which we are moving over to SoG Explore. There's not a lot of probate material on SoG Explore yet. It hasn't migrated over. So you really want to search our collections, our digital collections, for what we put online from the library. We've often digitized some of these, the wills in our manuscript collection by name and indexed them online. So the SoG document digital collections, the will sections has all England wills and some counties, and these index some of the wills in the library and archives, and particularly in our document and special collections. Sometimes the Society actually acts as an archive of original records. So, for example, when the Bank of England gave the Society hundreds of volumes of will abstracts, where the bank recorded a will as evidence, that's been a remarkable collection. We've digitized that collection, put the index and the wills, the abstracts themselves, on SoG data online. Another collection that has probate connections are the Great Western Railway registers of investors in GWR stock, where that stock was transferred by probate and bequeathed in a will. And so they have what they call the GWR probate registers. Again, these came to the Society, we index them and put them online. If you look through the collection reports of our special collections, which you can do by which you can browse through at home via the links on the library pages, they often make mention of wills in the collections themselves. These could be listing of wills or copies and abstracts of the documents, such as here, the 1842 will of Benjamin Cooper in the Austin Cooper collection, the family papers and documents given to the Society by the British Record Association, comprising documents presumably kept as evidence in family papers as part of various marriage settlements. So while we've got lots of nice marriage settlements, within there is also a copy of a will. The document was there within family papers, and we've indexed it in our collection, indexed to some of the wills in our special collections. We haven't done all, but we've done about a dozen as a pilot project, and we hope to go on to do more of that. So there's definitely worth looking at the index to what wills are there in our special collections. Wills in our document collections are miscellaneous manuscript research notes, not ordered by surname, not within a larger special collection, but often in what we call the surname document collections, have often come from family papers or executors or solicitors' copies when dealing with the estate. So you can see on the outside of a copy of the will of Dame Fern Norris, all of the stamps of the various institutions, such as the Bank of England or the Gaslight and Coke Company that the solicitors dealt with when they were acting as executors of that estate. And again, there is an index to what they say is all the wills in our document collection. I'm a bit suspicious that there might be a few not in there, but that's definitely a way to start for looking to see, well, is there a will in the document collection that's worth looking at. Here, for example, is an interesting example of a will proved in Exeter in 1615, and an abstract made of the administration. That original document was destroyed in the war, but because somebody had abstracted it and it ended up at the SoG's collection, that's an incredibly vital, useful document. And indeed, we also have a manuscript index listing wills from Somerset, from the consistory and archdeaconry of Bath and Wells, which were housed in Exeter when they were destroyed. The sad part is we have a wonderful list of what the wills were, but very few of the documents themselves have survived. But again, this is tantalising to say what there might have been. So we contribute to what's called the Devon Will projects, and we've identified where we have abstracts and copies and indexes of Devon wills in our collections, and those are listed in the Devon wills part on SoG Data Online. Some of the other interesting things we might have are beneficiary indexes, the Wiltshire Beneficiary Index, listing not only the testators, but the people mentioned in the Wiltshire wills are incredibly useful. And fairly all county indexes were working, had done that. Indeed, some are definitely going that way. I notice a lot of societies are working with their local record offices to actually transcribe and index all of the names in a will, and that's going to be amazing when that actually happens. If you want to know further information about using probate, we have some guides to probate on the open learn pages of the website, and indeed I'll send you a copy of the probate guide and how to use the records as one of the handouts accompanying this this presentation. I must mention our members forum. There is a specific thread for genealogy inquiries relating to wills and related documents. If you post a question there, it is very likely that some very expert help will be made in answering some of the questions. Anthony Camp, our former director, often pops up with an answer to a probate question. He does keep an eye on this thread. So again, if you've got a question relating to wills and you're a member, do use the particular thread in the members forum. Give you a couple of research strategies, the various courts that dealt with wills before 1858 and what you can do, and how you might actually have a research strategy when you're working at the society for finding what probate records there are. So keep that to hand and start using the catalogues to see what indexes and finding aids we have, and see if you can have access to the documents or abstracts of the documents in the library as well. If you want to know more about probate, and I'm really going to offer a very intense look at probate records covering 6 evening classes of 2 hours each with lots of practical studies, giving you experience in using documents and the Society's collections, please do think about enrolling on the wills and probate records that starts in October, running through to December this year. There's some information about it on the website. Members get 20% off, and all the contents and the things I'm going to be covering and where you can find them are listed there. Please do think about the Society if you're looking for wills. It is a remarkable resource. I was telling people I had a wonderful geeky conversation with Mark Kerber about a probate question last week. We were looking through copies of the documents online and trying to understand what it was saying and why it was there. And there were plenty of things in the SoG library that helped us understand exactly what was going on. It is a remarkable resource. It is a jewel of the Society's collections, and I wish you all the best fun in looking for your ancestors' wills and understanding the documents. Thank you very much.